Hey guys, it's Sean001, back at it again with the video games and back at it again with Destiny 2. Yes, this is gameplay. What I'm going to be showing is not B-roll. I'm going to be doing a live thing as I'm talking about what the title, of course, is, so if I stop for any reason, you know why. But yeah, we're probably just going to be running a few Vanguard strikes and stuff while I'm talking about Destiny's story, what's great about it, what's bad about it, why is it the way it is, stuff like that. Just kind of going in depth more about this year in particular with lore in general. I'm sorry if you're hearing noise in the background. That's my fan right here. It's a very, very, very hot on the East Coast today. So I'm just going to be checking my weapons here. So I got that. I got my Masterwork Ruinous Effigy. Alright. So, we're going to talk about Destiny's lore and how I feel about the lore itself, specifically with Year 3. I will say that Destiny, at least for me, and for a lot of people apparently, even people who aren't really deeply involved with the game, like some people who are just casual, believe that Destiny has some of the best written and most interesting lore pretty much out of most games. There's a lot of games that have really good lore. I consider Destiny to be one of the pillars up there with such things like Warframe or Skyrim or Doom. There's really good, interesting lore, and the way you go about that, not just by it being well written, but by having things in game that kind of give you hints, which I think is a lot better and something that they've done better in Destiny 2 as a whole, because if you don't remember back in Destiny 1, we didn't have lore books in game. We didn't have these here. You had to go to a separate party app that they had created, a companion app, to read your grimoire cards, which was annoying for a lot of people, but it did kind of make this interesting idea of there's a lot of stories in Destiny that we don't know about. There's a lot of stories that are interesting, that are cool, stuff that we can learn, and I thought that was really interesting, and I like the fact that in Destiny 2, you have it right there. You don't have to search pretty hard to find what you're looking for. I also like that more exotics have more interesting lore as a whole, how a lot of things either have a really interesting story behind them, and it adds to the uniqueness of these weapons. It adds depth to the loot pool, and I think that's interesting without them just being, oh, they're really powerful and that's it. There's at least a story, there's something that you learn behind this. And I thought that was very interesting, a very cool idea. Is adding that as its own separate kind of thing to use, and I think that's very interesting. It's a very cool thing. It's I feel like some of the best lore that we've gotten in this Destiny universe, I think, is honestly, it's a weird opinion for me to have. I think the best of it has come from Destiny 2, particularly with stuff like this. Stuff this season specifically is fantastic. Kind of talking about more about Savathun and how the Taken have really reacted to Oryx's death and not having a leader, and kind of having to pick themselves up by the bootstraps and learn how to do it again. And of course, Destiny 1 will always have great lore as well. I mean, Jari, Anna Bray, the Battle of the Six Fronts, the Tale of Dredge and Yor, Shin Alfur, all of that is fantastic and will remain some of the best and most remembered stories in Destiny history. But I feel like Destiny 2 does a better job of kind of providing that information to you without revealing too much, although some would say that's, very different in terms of some specific stuff, and this is one of the things that kind of removed all the sense of wonder within lore. You kind of, all the mystery that you would get from specific things, made it fun, and what we thought up of was infinitely better than the fact, stuff about Shin Alfur I didn't like. with what went down with it. Characters that me to Laura has definitely acted is that sense of wonder. Although they are doing better about that, specifically with this season, they've been better about that, especially with the pyramids and learning about kind of how the pyramids work, especially with their like gravitational weaponry and stuff like that. And there's a lot of interesting lore to be had, not to mention Saint 14, who's one of the best characters in Destiny, explaining more about Cade, which I thought was awesome, to make him even more likable and even more fleshed out and less of a one-dimensional character. Kind of, you know, less than him being like the goofy, you know, the goofy leader who is very personable, but no one really likes him because he always acts aloof. I'm kind of glad they did away with that, and they kind of showed like there's definitely humanity behind him. Not to mention that, but the fact that even Zavala has some of the best character development going on with this season specifically, and the fact that he himself was this stoic, like just staunch, you know, believer in the light. I want nothing to do with the darkness. The darkness is a curse. Everything to him, kind of letting his guard down and kind of becoming less of a one-dimensional character, adding, you know, more emotion and more differences in who he is and why, you know, he is the way he is. And I find that really interesting. I find that really cool, and how that, you know, ties in with lore specifically of him being like, I've lost too many people, I'm not prepared to lose it. I think that's just awesome. I think that's just infinitely cool. Even the story with Lumina, us redeeming Dredge and Yor in that respect. There's a lot of great stuff. But again, what I say is the wonder is kind of gone, and they're bringing it back. They're slowly bringing it back with this. I believe Beyond Light is going to fully bring it back when we eventually get our stasis powers and our darkness abilities and such. I really think we're going to get some amazing lore and interesting stuff that we've wondered for a very long time in the Destiny universe, such as the Deepstone Crypt and stuff like that. That'll be very interesting to learn. But with Year 3 specifically in lore, it has become way better written than it was in Year 1. But it's a little disjointed, and I believe that's the partial fault for that, I believe, is the fact that the seasons which are supposed to bleed into each other, are very disjointed, even when, really only having one or two things that link seasons together, and they're not really that big, things that affect the Destiny universe as a whole. Although the Almighty, I guess, kind of is a big thing, but that didn't really have a big effect on the story at hand, besides us allying with Rasputin. I think that was the problem with Season of the Worthy, particularly lore-wise, was that there wasn't really much to go on. There wasn't really much to lead us into this new season, mainly because we didn't know what this new season was even going to be about. The only thing that really linked us to this season in terms of Season of the Worthy was the fact that there was a map that showed in one of the Rasputin bunkers that showed that we were, that the pyramids were coming, and that was really the only big thing, which is upsetting because, they said they were going to make a bigger effort of trying to link our seasons together, and that they were going to try to make it all flow, but at the end of the day, it doesn't flow. It hasn't flown easily. It's very broken. It's very disjointed, despite it being extremely well written. And that's the unfortunate part that I think stinks, is that it's so disjointed that people think the lore is bad when it's not. It absolutely isn't. The Saint 14's story, the fact that he is who, the way he is because of us, that we went back in time and saved him. Like, that's really cool and interesting lore that we get to experience. And I feel like people, because of how disjointed it is, people won't even recognize that the lore is actually better than, you know, in my opinion, than Destiny 1 was. Which probably sounds, you know, heretical, but I feel like I'm right, like, in that respect. That's my opinion. And I feel like, as a whole, the Destiny lore has just been really good. I like it a lot. I thought it was really interesting. Especially now, learning about the Fallen and how that's going to tie in with this season. The fact that Varix turned against us, and the fact that Varix is now, you know, deemed himself the Kell of Kells, which, if you don't know, is from Destiny 1, where we fought Skolas. That it's just a very interesting and cool concept that Varix, I think Varix is one of the best written characters in Destiny. He's definitely a fan favorite, because it was really the first time we've ever had a Fallen, like, as an ally. But you always felt like there was something off about him, and you kind of find out, yeah, and the fact that he's the one that released all the prisoners in the Prison of Elders, so he's indirectly responsible for the death of Cayde, is horrendous. It's awful. He's the one that released Aramis, who's going to be the big bad for Beyond Light, is interesting, and I feel like they could continue the story in a great light, especially now that Aramis is actually coming. And we've even, you know, met people who have worked with Aramis a while back. If you do the Outbreak Perfected mission, the 0 hour mission in the tower, the boss is, his subtitle, or his title, is loyal to Aramis, and everyone's like bound to Aramis, which I think is awesome. And it's the fact that we are painted as the fact that we are kind of the bad guys, and what I like about this the Destiny 2 lore, specifically pertaining to Guardians and the Fallen, is that it seems like our actions now have consequences. It may not seem that in the main story, where we kill Gaul, but there's no big ramifications for us killing Gaul. We killed Penates, and really the big thing was that Osiris was back, but he went back into the Infinite Forest anyway. That wasn't really a big payoff. Same thing with Warmind. We killed God in the easiest mission ever, and then nothing really came out of that, besides, Whisper of the Worm. And then Forsaken is when it really starts to become apparent that, we are creating effect, we are making effect. And really the only time we've ever had a big ramification from killing an enemy was when we killed Crota, and the fact that Oryx came after. And Oryx was the one that kind of was like, hey, we're done. And then the fact that now we killed Oryx, and now Savathun is stepping up. There we go. That's where our ramifications are coming, and I like that. And I feel like Forsaken built upon that with the fact that the Guardian's actions ended up leading to the death of Cayde. Not just our Guardian, but everybody. Everybody, all the enemies that we put away have kind of now want revenge, and I think that's very interesting. I think it's an interesting idea that we are creating major ramifications in the universe. Even now, the fact that we found a pyramid ship, now we're like conversing with the darkness, and now we're to the point where we're going to be directly using the darkness, and so the fact that actually we already are, by using Ruinous Effigy, which has some of the most interesting lore, and the fact that Ruinous Effigy is draining our light every time we use it, which I think is awesome, because it's directly from the darkness. It's using our light and draining it, and that's why it's able to, I guess the correct word would be transmutate. I don't know if it's transmute or transmutate, but the fact that we're turning these people into spheres that we use as weapons is awesome and crazy. But the fact that they're like, oh right, this is directly from the darkness, this could have some really big ramifications on us, and I believe that us using the Ruinous Effigy here is going to lead to us straight up getting our stasis abilities. I think that this is going to tie in heavily, and I kind of like that the relationship of light and dark is being built up as maybe it's not everything that it seems, and I like that there's this doubt that Guardians, that our thought and perception of Guardians are completely changing, which is just awesome. Because if you think about it, Destiny 1 was all about the big triumphs that we did, and if you go back in Destiny 2, if you were going main story of Destiny 2, or actually let's go back to Destiny 1. So the main story of Destiny 1 was building up this legend, building us up as we can do anything, we are basically gods, we can stop anything, we can bring everybody out of the collapse, nothing can stop us, nothing can get in our way. And I like that Destiny 2 is kind of the reverse of that, is the fact that it's all about loss, it's all about us kind of sinking lower and lower from that legend, how we're kind of falling to darkness. And I think that's one of the most interesting ideas. It's very much a sequel move. If you think about it, the sequels are always, in movies, sequels are always darker than the original. It has always been like that with many shows, like, particularly if you had a very short, limited series per show, the second season is, like, the worst the characters can get, is, like, you know, the most pain they can go through. Think about Avatar Last Airbender, where Aang basically dies, you know, your only hope. I mean, there's hope at the end that he maybe survived, but you even have that with Star Wars, where Luke finds out Darth Vader is his father, the villain he's been trying to stop, and the fact that Luke loses his hands, and they pretty much lose in the end of that movie. They don't win. It's very similar to this, and the fact that I think Destiny 2 has been the same way, where at the beginning of Destiny 2, we lose our light, and people thought that as like, oh, well, that's so we could just level up our characters again. While it did do that, it also serves a story purpose. It serves the fact that, hey, our legend is dying. We're no longer the supposed gods that we thought we were. We're no longer these big, powerful people, although we are, considering that we're, you know, killing worm gods and stuff. But it's the breakdown of our story, of our legend, and how we're, you know, the fall. It's all about the fall. To quote the Joker, it's the birth from the fall. That's how it comes, and I think that's wicked interesting. And the fact that, and if you really think about it, that makes sense. In all of our major expansions, it's all been about like, oh, we are fighting a losing battle. There's no way we can win, and I find that wicked interesting. It's the first time we've met an enemy that we can't defeat, at least so far. Because it's an entity that, you know, pretty much crippled the Traveler on its own. So, which we, you know, are conduits and draw power from. And I think that's wicked interesting. So, like, with the Red War campaign, we lose our light. We do eventually triumph, but we have that big loss of, oh man, we lost our light, we lost so many Guardians because they were lightless. And we don't have anybody. And then Curse of Osiris, you know, was more or less the loss of kind of the Vanguard's integrity, I guess, in a way, in the fact that he's seen as heretical, and that no one, you know, wants to deal with Osiris, and how it's kind of a big no-no that Osiris should even, you know, be acknowledged because of his research of the Vex and all the stuff he's done. And I find that wicked interesting. Warmind, not so much. I guess Warmind, there's not really much that we lose, unless if it's kind of trust with Zavala in a way, and the fact that we're allying ourselves with Rasputin, who he feels, you know, is a half measure. He feels like isn't a hero, and he feels like, you know, will turn us, you know, the first chance he gets. And then we get to Forsaken, which really hammers it home in the fact that, oh man, we lost our mentor, we lost Cade, we lost the one Guardian that made us all happy, the one Guardian, you know, that everybody liked, and the fact that no hunter wants to be the new Vanguard. They all left the tower. Any hunter that was of notable, you know, skill and power left, because they want no part of being a hunter vanguard. And I think that you're like, huh, so you get this loss of our powers, this loss of our mentor, and now eventually the loss of our ideals, and the fact that we're realizing, wow, we can't beat the darkness with light. We have to beat the darkness with darkness. There's no other way. We have to, you know, become the very thing that we swore not to be in order to defeat the darkness. And Beyond Light is definitely pushing that in. And we, you know, we have lost our innocence as well. Not just with losing Cade, but with the fact that we found out that our enemy was right under our nose the whole time, and we did nothing about it. We never knew. And now they're at our doorstep, and what we're doing is seen as heretical in the eyes of most guardians. In the fact that we're taking gifts from the darkness, we're listening to the darkness, we're conversing with the darkness, we're, you know, we're accepting the darkness into ourselves. And I think that's very interesting. And I don't know the implications for Beyond Light, besides the fact that we're actually going to be using darkness-based, you know, subclasses.
Can you hear me now? I'm back.
There is the fact that we've basically shattered the Fallen. Their whole hierarchy, their whole ecosystem has basically died because of us, because we've killed every Archon and every Kel imaginable. And the fact that that's why Aramis is going to Europa to get revenge, not just on us, but on the Traveler, because she feels like it's the Traveler's fault for why we are the way that we are. And I find that very interesting. That she believes the Traveler is the reason we are, you know, we are this crazy Fallen killing, you know, place, because what we found out is every time we kill a servitor, we starve a Fallen child. And that was like, I was just like, wow. That like blew my mind. That we're like, because they all farm off ether, and I was just like, wow, like that's something that never came to my attention. Is the fact that we are really affecting change, and we are doing some pretty bad stuff. Like as Guardians, we're no longer like this. It's no longer a world of black and white. We're kind of the gray in all of this, and that the Fallen see us as evil, except for Mithrax, who stands for the light, all because a Guardian, you know, spared him. By the way, that was us. We are that Guardian that spared him. But it's like, it's that fact that the Fallen hate us, you know, not out of some hatred, not because they're dark, not because they're evil, but because we're killing them. We're taking away their ecosystem. It's to the point where even in lore, they don't even know the old ways, and that's what causes Varix to have this kind of psychological break, and him saying, I'm the Kel of Kels, I'm gonna lead everybody back to the ways of old, because no one even knows what the ways of old are anymore. So anyone who had the ways of old are dead. We killed them. And that's it. And I find that very interesting. It's a very cool idea. It's something that I feel like that's my theory about how the Lord is going to be going from now on. And I think that's a really cool idea. And we know that there's no Destiny 3. We know that Savathûn's going to be coming, and eventually we're going to be getting, you know, Lightfall, which, you know, is the working title. I hope they keep that, because it's a great name.
What was that?
But that it's all going to come to a head. It's going to lead us to a moment. In the words of Luke Smith, we're going to do something or do something. I think is interesting, especially because our death has been foreshadowed. And the most eloquent among people who like Destiny lore. I'm not, you know, I don't know the most. There are definitely other YouTubers better than me that can do it, but that's kind of how I feel about Destiny lore. Is the fact that the sense of wonder is coming back. The fact that the lore is a little disjointed, it's okay, but and we want that to be a little bit more connected. But that they're still well written. It's still extremely interesting, depending on what it is, and that it could infinitely, there's room for improvement. There's always going to be room for improvement. You can't have perfect stuff. There's no such thing in my opinion. Anyone's opinion. That's the thing. I could think something is perfect in writing, but someone could think the exact opposite. There's something wrong with this, and that's fine. You were entitled to your own opinion, and I think it's interesting, especially with now in this time in Destiny. I feel like they were right that there is no other time in Destiny right now. Like, this is no other time. I feel like they lived up to that expectation that they set, and I like that, because I remember people had their doubts about this season, mainly because of how horrible last season was. And when I mean horrible, I mean horrible. If you didn't play Season of the Worthy, then you're probably one of the most lucky people to ever play this game, because it was just horrendous. But I feel like they've more than made up for it. Their summer seasonal stuff has always been really good. There's never been a problem with their stuff. I mean, go back to Season of Opulence, which is considered one of the best moments of content in Destiny history. And you got yourself a pretty good thing. And I think because it's about something that people care about. Did I just blow myself up? Because it's something that people care about. It's 10 times better. That's why I feel like Season of Arrivals is doing really well. The lore itself is very interesting and very well written, and I think it will be like that.
Failsafe, you feeling any better?
Yes, thank you. As well as a ship AI can when her crew has died.
We'll always be here for you.
And who's better than us? We're awesome.
Yeah, I guess so.